Everyone just missed the songs, Bloom.
Yeah. Well, I singing. I keep hearing about that. Little did I know, cease. I'm really. This was just a chrysalis for my singing career.
Let's do it.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
No, wild card weekend indeed. Now, we don't do recaps of the wild card games, but we are here to discuss what happened in the National Football League. And what happened is Green Bay kicked Dallas's
Yeah.
ass up one side and down the other, building confidence in that young quarterback, Jordan Love. So, Bloom, I guess to start today's show is,
Yeah.
can it continue now for a team like the Packers?
Well, we should be open to it just because of how resounding the offensive performance was, and San Francisco's defense hasn't been a shutdown unit. It's a top half of the league unit. The bigger question is, can Green Bay's defense slow down San Francisco's offense? Maybe you get a little bit of that 1 week layoff bump. Obviously, the team came out red hot against Dallas. So Matt LaFleur absolutely had his guys ready to play. And Cease, I think the most fascinating angle of that outcome is, number one, we talked about this with Russ and Geno Smith and Seattle. Is it possible that Aaron Rodgers was holding back the offense a little bit? At the very least, the offense wasn't able to fulfill the concepts, fulfill the ideas that Matt LaFleur had. And also, man, UTEP two-step, baby. Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
How is maybe we're underrating Green Bay because they only had a healthy Aaron Jones just for the last few weeks.
He wasn't
And
even healthy this week. He was limited every day in practice.
so, and we know what is the Matt LaFleur offense, a Shanahan family offense. You've run to set up the pass. And now you have, Luke Musgrave is healthy. Christian Watson can add, at the very least, spacing. Even if Christian Watson's not making deep catches downfield, Christian Watson being out there adds that deep ball threat. And this is that classic playing with house money team. So you love to see it. And see, the other thing I'm going to circle back, a couple things I want to touch on anywhere during a recap, but the things that just stick out in my mind. Is it a Mike McCarthy collapse or a Dan Quinn collapse? I think both of these guys have extremely suspect playoff records. Their teams underachieve, both of them. Remember the Atlanta Falcon, Dan Quinn defenses in the playoffs, all right? And the other side here is, will teams maybe be a little more patient with quarterbacks now after seeing what Jordan Love has done?
Well, and that's where I wanted to take the conversation, Bloom. So it's a perfect segue because one, you have to do it differently. And we're seeing now with the resurgence, and Jordan Love's part of that, but it's part of the guys that haven't been playing that get into
Jake
play.
Browning, Mason Rudolph.
Right. Go down the list. We saw 60 flipping quarterbacks this year. Sorry, Joe. Yeah, I think there's something to that, and to waiting, developing, being patient with the prospect. Jordan Love goes to another team. He's pushed out there. He's a bust. He's Trey Lance, right? Whatever. And Trey Lance hasn't even really gotten an opportunity, but that's what he is, right? You push him out there, he starts, he's terrible. And now we saw him during this whole season. Like Jordan Love week 1, week 2, week 3 was not Jordan Love that we saw in the wild card game. I think patience with certain prospects and certain franchises with that organizational drink clarity give you this.
Yeah, and I brought up Jake Browning and Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph is maybe not above that 32 line, but he's a lot better quarterback than we saw him earlier in his career. And Jake Browning had all that time to marinate, incubate, and we see that the game's not too big for him. So I do think that the league as a whole needs to see a position like running back. By year 3 or year 4, we've seen who that guy's going to be in the NFL, right? Maybe we've even seen the best of who that guy's going to be.
His career might be over by that time.
Right. Quarterback might be just the opposite, and we used to say this about wide receivers. I'm old enough to remember we would say you can't judge a wide receiver until after year 3. Maybe we can't judge a quarterback until after year 4 or 5.
Yeah, maybe that's the way it goes, and that's why teams are going to have to look at things differently. Now, again, we don't do wild card recaps. But when I look at just kind of the makeup of this postseason, Bloom, it comes down to playing with house money and being hot at the right time. That's exactly what Green Bay is doing. Tampa Bay also doing that, as we see, and we'll bid a tip of our caps to Jason Kelsey, who's going to retire. But we see that with protecting your quarterback, and we see that with Todd Bowles, right? Todd Bowles is like, just go get him. What? Attack the quarterback? Yeah, attack. And that's what they did.
Yeah, I think that when we tease apart this Tampa Bay Philadelphia game, I think one of the things that we need to look at is we're always trying to find patterns with momentum or lack of momentum, right? You know, we might look at a team like Kansas City and say, well, what have they done over the last month and a half of the regular season to give you confidence? Not much, but because of all that playoff experience, they were able to get back in postseason mode. But we look at a team like Philadelphia, and they were honestly one of the worst teams in the league over the last month, and they look like one of the worst teams in the league in the playoffs. So no, they couldn't flip that switch, and it makes you wonder about Jalen Hurts. And not makes you wonder, I mean, Jalen Hurts deserves the money. Jalen Hurts should be a starting quarterback. He's an elite fantasy quarterback and all that. But you look at the effect a Patrick Mahomes has on his team or a Josh Allen has on his team. These are the other two top 3 fantasy quarterbacks going into the season, right? Jalen Hurts seemed powerless to change the outcome of that game. And maybe that what we saw in the Super Bowl, let's talk about tip of the cap. I mean, he really played the best possible game he could have played, save for that one play. But you really wonder about how much he can elevate the team. And the other thing I'll say that's the headline from the Tampa Philly game, is coordinators matter. Yeah, coordinators matter.
Yeah, coordinators matter. The other thing I would say from that is, okay, if you are Jalen Hurts and everything that they've done with him, protection matters, game plan matters, and our wide receivers the canary in the coal mine when it comes to the destruction of a franchise because of the AJ Brown. How much can we say about AJ Brown, Bloom? I don't know. What have you heard? I guess I'll start that way and I'll fill in what I can. But like, what have you heard about AJ Brown and the stuff that he's displeased with behind the scenes in Philadelphia?
Honestly, this is one where I'm in the dark, so it's not even
okay. Well, I will ask
looking
you
for
then.
Lassie. Are you there, Lassie?
I'm Lassie showing up. I will say this. Much like Stephon Diggs, where why is that wide receiver throwing a fit? And it's like, well, one, like Diggs is like super competitive, hyper competitive. AJ Brown, there's some rumblings, like, is he trouble? Is he displeased with the direction of the offense and all that? But I would ask you, just without getting into too much, like, are wide receivers canaries in the coal mine? Not every instance is different, but are they because of the way wide receivers are wired and they're selfish and they're egotistical and they're wide receivers. I don't care. Like, they want the ball. But because of that, are they a little bit more hyper tuned to when things are going on? And when a wide receiver who has been, kind of disgruntled at times is happy, is that a sign that things are running well behind the scenes? I guess my opinion on this generally, Bloom, would be, what's your take on wide receivers?
Yeah.
They can tell you something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Cease, it's so funny. I'm just curious. Let's do a little personality test thing.
Okay.
On this topic, who's the avatar here? Who's the archetype of the wide receiver who is a team player, but is still very much his own guy and says what he thinks?
Terrell Owens.
Or who was in my head?
Who?
Chad Ochocinco. Right?
Yeah.
Total team player.
Yeah.
Complete team player, but very much outspoken and very much I don't want to say he has his own agenda, because that makes it sound like, again, he's a cancer, or he's a diva, or anything like that. I think that, and we always talk about this with wide receivers. I mean, wide receiver is one of the most fun positions to break down for the draft. Draft talk coming soon on the Audible, because they're out on an island, and no matter what, they are out there to fail or succeed for everybody to see. And like you're getting at, Cease, another name that's popping into my head right now is George Pickens. George Pickens, right? You want to make bumper stickers that say George Pickens was right or something like that, because he's his own guy.
Uh-huh.
And he beat of a different drummer or whatever cliche you want to use, but he was right. He was right. And I think that old school coaching, old school player management philosophy is you just don't tolerate that. You just don't tolerate it. Doesn't matter if you're right. You don't tolerate it. Chain of command, et
Yes.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But
Yes.
we are in the player empowerment era. And I do think, Cecil, you're right that we need to listen to players, and more than what they say. Again, the significance isn't what they say, because, and Cecil, you can speak to this if you want. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of conflict. Hey, we all grew up in families. How many families had conflict? Football teams are families. Okay. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of conflict. When you know something is wrong is when we see the conflict, when the conflict is taken outside of the house. And I think the wide receivers are often the first ones to do that.
Watch your wide receivers and watch how they're treated. I mean, how many times have I said Sean Payton loves Jerry Jeudy? Why didn't we see like a more of a Jerry Jeudy meltdown? Now we did see a little bit with the Steve Smith stuff, right? But
Frustration.
how quickly did that go away? Now, why did that go away?
Right.
Probably because the head coach was telling the wide receiver something was going to change.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing, Bloom. Totally have no idea.
Right.
Just a total guess.
Right. Solve for X. Yeah. And I think that Philadelphia, and let's circling back around to the Philadelphia question here. It's just whether it's AJ Brown or Jalen Hurts or offensive line or coordinators, it's clear that the trajectory of this franchise is down. And as we're in the heat of the playoffs right now, remember this, teams will say, we're going to get them next year whenever they come up just short, like Philadelphia did. And often those teams don't make it back, especially in the NFC. They don't make it back. So cherish that opportunity and seize the day.
Well, Diego, our guy in the chat room, says CeeDee Lamb being off was a harbinger of the Cowboys being mopped. Like, yeah, okay. I'm going to really look back on this, meditate on it, Bloom, but I'm also going to take note going forward. Just knowing what we know, 19 years into doing this show. Hey, everybody, pay attention to wide receivers. But it's like the way that they're wired, their frequency picks up on the slightest thing that's wrong. Yeah. So I'm likely to really push they're the canary in the coal mine for organizational health.
Well, and see, the league kind of understands this because they're edge rusher and wide receiver and tackle, those are the positions. And wide receiver was the position we saw like 2 years ago, massive plate tectonics in the NFL happening whenever, Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, and teams having clarity about whether they want to pay this wide receiver. In the case of Tyreek Hill, in the case of Davante Adams, it was, well, the wide receiver, again, player empowerment, the wide receiver can determine what happens next. And I think that you talk about it tactically. I mean, they are kind of like that front line. They are the warrior that goes across enemy lines. They are the one, the Navy SEAL, whatever you want to use, that is out there kind of naked. And if they're not getting cover, if they're not getting, they're the ones putting themselves on the line. You talk about the Tyler Higbee hit from the Detroit Rams game. Is that on the defensive player, or is that on the quarterback? Because those guys running those routes, they're at risk every time they're out there.
Yeah, quarterback's throwing some hospital balls. I saw that this week as well. And you know who that hits on, Bloom? It's on the flipping league for like, make sure you don't go up around anybody's chest area. So everyone's knee's going to get taken out. Yeah. From here on out, everyone's knee's going to get taken out. And Josh Allen doing the fake slide thing, it's like he's never going to slide. And he should now, just to throw people off.
Sure.
But the Josh Allen, kind of, and he didn't even really Kenny Pickett slide from Pitt because that's illegal.
That's
illegal at Bushward, right? But he did like the choppy feet, slow down, he's gonna give himself up. He doesn't give himself up.
That's like a good pump fake. And again, Josh Allen was good at pump fakes back at Wyoming. You can manipulate the defense. You can it's actually, even though it's a physical act, it's the mental side of the game. And Josh Allen has actually been pretty good at the mental side of the game when he's not trying to do everything.
He's pretty good at something. Anyway, we're looking at now with potential openings. Bill Belichick there. And it was one of those
interviewing in Atlanta.
Yeah, it was one of those things too, and him and Arthur Blank. Okay, if Buffalo would have lost, would Sean McDermott be safe? I still don't even know if Sean McDermott's safe. Mike Mularkey won a playoff game and got fired anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, but now you mentioned Mike McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
Belichick's out there, and everyone's gonna get crazy. And Todd Bowles, honestly, there was questions about Todd Bowles on whether or not had he not won, would he have continued on, because Tampa is known to make some splashy moves. That's what that family wants to do. What's splashier than getting Belichick? So Belichick's still out there, but the teams that lost are just the way these playoffs have unfolded. Bloom, does it make you think differently about landing spots for Belichick?
I mean, Dallas obviously is going to be the team we're all watching. And also, it makes you wonder. I don't think if the Dan Quinn succession plan is in place that Seattle would change that plan just based on one game. But they could. There's a pattern here. So I do think that we haven't seen, this has been a really interesting coaching carousel season, because we had Black Monday, but then we had the trickle, the turning of the page of eras, the Carroll and Belichick moment, and maybe there's still another shoe left to drop. And I think one thing that we should note, Cease, is that previously, maybe as recently as 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, when teams had openings at the end of the season, it was like a race to fill the openings. And now you're seeing a lot more patience. And maybe that's part of the story, is that the patience also is making the decision of whether to keep your head coach or not.
In this league, why did that happen, though?
Why did what happen?
Well, you mentioned it. Like, we gotta get in there, we gotta get ready for the draft, blah, 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 blah. And now every team's like, let's just slow it down. If you're the Chargers, how did you not know who you wanted immediately? How is that coach not hired right now?
Yeah.
You fired your coach during the season.
Yeah.
If you're the Commanders, who Adam Peters gets the Commanders GM job.
Yay!
He's going to be heavily involved. And Bloom, I think we said this off air, but I'll say it on air. It's so cool that when we started this thing, and people that were like in Ian Cunningham,
they told us that.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment out to all the young people out there. Okay, all the people out there that are at the bottom rung of the ladder, and whatever, it can be professional or personal, if you're just starting out. They told us 18 years ago, out on the All-Star Game tour, when we were getting to rub elbows with legends like Mean Joe Green and C.O. Precado, et cetera, that just show up, work hard, be kind and friendly. And the area scouts, what did they call it back then? He's 25 for $25,000 a year at 25 years old.
Yep.
Yeah. You keep working, they're going to keep working. And the next thing you know, you're going to turn around, and somebody that you were just standing there at the back of the chow line with is going to be a GM. And sure enough, it happens. So it does happen, folks, when they tell you those things and say, hey, just keep working hard, just keep endearing yourself to people, just keep putting your name on your work and putting your best face forward. And you'll look around, and all of a sudden the world will be different, and you'll be part of it.
Hey, Bloom, when we first started out, I was never at the back of the chow line. I was always at the front. Remember when I used to get Baconators after every show? I'd be like,
Yeah.
What a great show. I'm going to go pig out.
Yeah. Now your system would probably seize up if you just took a bite of a Baconator.
I could not even imagine.
There goes our Wendy's endorsement. Crap.
Sorry, Wendy's. Eat healthy, everybody. Anyway, no, it's cool, man. It's cool. So congratulations to Adam. He's going to be heavily involved in picking out their next head coach. And of course, the quarterback carousel continues, because as we wrap up today's show, Bloom, with the preview of it, because you said it, I seen it. Michael Penix has accepted his Senior Bowl invite. When I am in Mobile for the 18th season in a row, I will see Bo Nix and Michael Penix on the same field. We just talked about Jordan Love. We just talked about Jalen Hurts. I was at that game in 2020 where Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Herbert were all there. And Herbert was by far and away the star, creme de la creme, top of the top. Hurts was a little rough. He got better as the week went on. Jordan Love was real rough almost all week. Physical tools were easy to see, but he was pretty rough all week. So who needs more time? Who needs more attention? Remember, care, Bloom, the generative principle, care. Jordan Love got care from the Packers, and he got a little bit of love. Remember, because they redid his money a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So he had stuff to play for, and you see that. We'll come full circle on this show. But yeah, Penix, Bo Nix, Senior Bowl. Let's get it on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful things. He's going all the way back to when we started doing the All-Star Game Tour a long time ago. The story's always being written. The non-playing season, a wise man I know coined that term, that there's a season going on right now among the teams that aren't in the playoffs, and the combatants are the front offices, the head coaches, the scouting departments, and teams are getting better or worse, and ripple effects well into the future are going to be based on decisions that they're making right now, including decisions about this incredible class of quarterbacks that also just got J.J. McCarthy. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of very interesting decisions to be made, and we're going to be there for all of it.
Well, and you said McCarthy. I don't have a first-round grade on McCarthy. I might have a first-round grade on him if he stayed a year.
Yeah, well, and that's why in this class? Oh, we're getting into draft talk. Wait.
Yeah, hold, please. Everybody hold on. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you get a lot of interesting reactions from McCarthy. So you know what we need to do, Bloom? We need to talk to Matt Waldman. Yeah, the great Matt Waldman, RSP, Rookie Scouting Portfolio, footballguys.com. We are here for you. So we'll have a divisional round preview that's coming up on Thursday. Make sure to stay tuned for that. Everyone get ready for that show. So that's Thursday, should be normal time, whatever's whatever. We'll always give you these newsy shows, keep you up on the draft information. Want you to check out footballguys.com. Sign up for that free daily newsletter, because the takes are written by me and Sigmund and Joe Bryant. That's a hell of a trio, and I don't even get in trouble for saying that. Anyway, he's Sig. Follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And as always, would you please stay frosty?